and welcome to this edition of Budding Solutions, a series on disease and pest management in cannabis sativa. My name is Kim Leonberger, and I'm an Extension Associate in the Plant Pathology Department at the University of Kentucky. In this episode, we're going to take a closer look at Septoria leaf spot. To discuss this important disease issue, I would like to introduce Jocelyn Schwartz. Jocelyn is a third-year PhD candidate in Chris Smart's lab at Cornell Agritech. She is actively researching the biology, management, and breeding for Septoria leaf spot-resistant hemp. Jocelyn is going to share a few slides with us about this disease, and then we'll have time for a few questions. Welcome, Jocelyn.
Thanks for the intro, Kim, and for having me on the webinar. I will share the presentation now. Okay, so hi everybody. I'm excited to share our lab's research with you all on hemp Septoria leaf spot. So in this first slide here, it's just an overhead image of one of our hemp field trials from this past summer. There we go. Okay. Septoria leaf spot on hemp is the most commonly reported disease of field-grown hemp here in New York State. It's caused by the fungus Septoria cannabis. And in image A, you can see some of the symptoms. So it begins as these brown lesions surrounded by yellow halos. And as the disease progresses, the yellow halos will join together until the leaves drop from the plant. So if you were to zoom in on this lesion here, you would be able to find almost peppery looking black dots. And in B, this is just a zoomed in version. So you can see those peppery looking black dots. Those are the spore bearing structures. And then out of those black dots, they exude the spores. So a big sign of hemp Septoria leaf spot are these spore tendrils. They sort of look like little ribbons. So if you were to take some of those spore tendrils and look at them under the microscope, this is what they would look like. So here are the spores in image C. And then in image D is a more severe Septoria cannabis infection. So again, you can see that the lesions have joined together, and then this leaf will eventually fall off the plant. Fortunately, this disease is not reported to cause yield loss in Kentucky. Their group found that there was no effect on CBD or biomass yields. So Septoria leaf spot is a global issue. So on this map here, each area that's highlighted in red is a location where hemp Septoria leaf spot has been officially reported. It was first reported in New York State in 1884, so that's a really long time ago. It's unclear whether the resurgence of Septoria leaf spot coincided with the reintroduction of hemp. But because we haven't had large-scale hemp production in the past 50 years or so, so it's unclear if it's possible that this fungus was present in other hosts at low levels during this time, but this is an active area of research. So lower leaves and inner canopies are most affected by Septoria leaf spot. This is an image of one of our field trials here in Geneva. You can see that the lowest leaves have completely dropped off the plant. So hopefully this disease life cycle over on the right explains a little bit about why that occurs. So remember those peppery looking black dots on the center of the brown lesions? They're believed to overwinter on diseased leaf debris, as well as in the soil in between growing seasons. And then in early summer, we get the spores that exude from those spore-producing structures, and they serve as primary inoculum at the start of the growing season. So this is sort of what gets the disease started. So healthy hemp leaves are infected, and then we get secondary spread in the middle of the growing season. So in periods of high humidity or splashing wind, oh, pardon me, splashing rain and some wind, we can get secondary spread. So this would mean either within a plant or between many plants. And then this cycle continues. So Septoria leaf spot is a really big issue here in New York. So the first thing we did was survey the growers in our area and ask them how they manage this disease. And that sort of drove our research questions. Hemp growers commonly use fungicides to manage this disease. So a little bit about that here. All fungicides that are labeled for use on hemp in New York State are labeled for use in organic production, and many of them are biologicals. Additionally, there is limited research on the efficacy of those fungicides against hemp pathogens. So the goal from this project was to test fungicides that are commonly applied by growers in New York State, as well as to test fungicides that have been previously shown to reduce Septoria cannabis in vitro. So they've been previously shown to be efficacious in petri dishes, but now we want to do a field study to see how well these products are able to manage the disease. So here's a list of all the fungicides we used in the 2024 trial. Again, these products are commonly applied by growers here in New York. So we have Cease, Double Nickel, Regalia, Millstop, Root Shield Plus, Cueva, Purpose Plus, and Quadris. So in order to conduct the experiment, we planted clones of TJ's CBD in the field. This is a cultivar that's known to be very susceptible to Septoria cannabis. We then inoculated the field with the fungus. So basically what you do is you grow the fungus in a petri dish, and then you make a spore suspension using water and an adjuvant. And then you can add that to a backpack sprayer and just apply it to each plant. We then applied the fungicides weekly according to the labeled rate, and then visually rated for disease severity on a scale of 0 to 100% each week. So here are the results from the field trial. So this was sort of unfortunate news. None of the products we tested significantly reduced percent disease severity. So here on the y-axis, we have disease severity, and on the x-axis, we have all of our treatments that we tested. You can see here that Quadris served as our positive control in this experiment. So this product has previously been shown to control Septoria's other species of Septoria, which is why we included it. However, this product is not labeled for use on hemp. So therefore, it was our positive control in this experiment. So you can see that although there was a numerical decrease or change in the amount of percent disease with the products, there was no statistical differences between the treatments compared to the untreated control here. Therefore, we really want to emphasize cultural management strategies. So we look at this disease cycle again and we think, where can we interrupt the disease life cycle to best manage the disease? So the first thing would be to keep plants dry. So we want to reduce the secondary spread throughout the growing season. So that would involve reducing overhead irrigation or increasing plant spacing. Another management tool is sanitation. So the overwintering structures that persist on diseased leaves should be cleared away, or you could prune off infected leaves, or even rogue a plant from the field if it's just one plant that's infected. Additionally, crop rotation is a really great tool for management. We did a small host range study and we couldn't find any alternate hosts for Septoria cannabis. And current research. So we're doing a lot of work. We really don't know a lot about this disease yet. So we're working on host resistance, pathogen diversity, host range, and continuing work with the fungicide trials. So big thank you to my awesome lab, the Chris Smart Lab, the USDA PGRU team, and all of my funding resources. So I wanted to leave you here with these hemp and disease resources. So we have the Cornell Hemp website, where there's a slew of really great fact sheets and even a hemp production manual on there that I definitely recommend checking out. The Cornell Plant Disease Diagnostic Clinic, the Cornell Hemp Extension Team, and then also Grin Global, which is a USDA website, which has a ton of information on varieties that were resistant to Septoria cannabis in the field. So I'll leave you with some of my contact info at the bottom, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Jocelyn. Just a note to our viewers, all of the links that Jocelyn's highlighted here, we'll make sure that the links for all of those resources are in the description for the video, so it's easier to access those. So make sure that you have access to those. Thank you so much for your presentation. It was really, really informative. So one of the things that you touched on when you were talking about the cultural practices was a little bit about the biology. And I think sometimes for some of our growers, understanding why the biology is important is challenging. And so how does understanding the biology of this pathogen aid us in making better management decisions?
Sure. So we don't know how diverse Septoria cannabis is. We don't know if it sexually reproduces. So when a fungus sexually reproduces, we know that diversity is going to increase a whole heck of a lot. So we don't know that if the Septoria we have here in New York State is any different than the Septoria you have. We don't know if it's different than the Septoria you have in Kentucky, or perhaps Septoria that's in California or Ohio or other states. So this has many implications on disease management. So maybe the fungicides that are efficacious on our New York Septoria cannabis might not be effective against the Kentucky Septoria, as well as host resistance. So if we had varieties that were resistant to our Septoria, it's possible that the varieties that are marketed as resistant might not hold true for pathogens in other areas. So many implications on disease management.
Excellent. All right. You said that you guys were kind of looking at some host resistance. Can you talk a little bit more about what you're finding and a little bit more about that type of research that you're doing?
Yeah, of course. So we're really lucky to be here in Geneva. So the building right across from us is actually the USDA Hemp Germplasm Repository, which houses diverse hemp accessions from all over the world. So we did 2 years of field studies to determine if there were any hemp accessions that were naturally resistant to this disease. So there are hundreds of accessions in the USDA Hemp Germplasm Repository. We really wanted to capture all of this diversity in a field trial. So in 2023, we had, I believe, 90 accessions, and in 2024, we had over 100 accessions that we planted in the field. We inoculated them the same way that we did for the fungicide trial. And we found that between 2023 and 2024, there were 6 accessions that were consistently resistant between both years. There are many people that are interested in feral hemp because they believe it possesses some unique quality. However, in our study, we didn't really see that feral hemp was more or less resistant to Septoria. Another major finding from this trial is we didn't see any differences between males and females in terms of Septoria leaf spot in our field. But if you wanted to see all of the details on all of the accessions we tested and their disease severity score, you could go to this Grin Global website. This link will actually take you directly to the Septoria information.
Excellent. So it sounds like maybe there's some great news there,
Yeah,
that maybe there are some lines that might provide some options.
hopefully.
Okay, last question for you. You talked about with the symptoms for this disease, it's a leaf spot.
Yep.
Is there anything else that maybe growers would get confused or think it could be Septoria, but maybe it's not? So are there any lookalikes out there?
That's a great question. There are quite a few leaf spots that look really similar to Septoria. Um, One that is commonly confused would be bipolaris leaf spot. Um, those leaf spots are quite a bit, have lesions that are quite a bit smaller than Septoria cannabis lesions. And often they're described as much lighter in color. So while Septoria cannabis might be a darker brown, bipolaris has more gray to tan looking lesions. Also, you won't see those dark peppery spore bearing structures or the spore tendrils on bipolaris. It'll look different. Um, in terms of management, again, this is a disease that we really don't know a whole lot about, unfortunately. However, pruning off diseased leaves and maybe roguing a plant from the field, if it's only one plant that's infected, um, those are two good management tools as well as crop rotation.
Thank you all so much for being here. Just a reminder, we'll be posting all of the resources that Jocelyn identified into the description for this video so you can access them easily there. Thank you again for joining us, and we hope to see you next time on the next episode of Budding Solutions.